I'd love to actually. I don't know if you have anything that you could show that sort of gives us a little bit of a glimpse to your process or even the way you're thinking. I don't know if you wanted to share some images on your end.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So this is something I did in 2018 for Cave Pictures Publishing. This was actually I've been doing my own comics, and this is the first time I was actually hired to write and draw a comic, and I was pretty happy with the end result. These aren't finished because the word balloons are temporary, but you can kind of see the difference between the inks and then the colored pages. And there's just so many of these pages.
One of my favorite, I think I mentioned before we started the webinar, one of the things as a kid that I was fascinated was to see the process before we got to really final finished drawings or final finished ink. And one of my favorite comic book heroes was John Buscema. And he just had this very fluid gestural drawing style. And that would be the way he would lay out and plan his Conan pages. And it's always amazing to see that process. And, so I always wonder, not every artist wants to show that process, but I think our crowd probably would love to see a little glimmer of that sort of transition from rough to inks to final cleanup. And I don't know if you have any sample. Oh, there you go, right over here. I could see your reds.
A little bit, yeah. The reds were all intended to be like finished in the computer, so you can see the reds in the background there. That's kind of what my sketches look like.
We used to use reds for animation. Was that a leftover from kind of working in the animation business where you kind of started with red, rough colored pencil drawings and then kind of overlay that? Or is that just a...
Yeah, I just red and orange are easy on my eyes for some reason. So I tend to favor those colors when I'm sketching. And I know that a lot of comic artists use the Blue Line Pro, but I don't like looking at blue. Just personal preference. But yeah, so here's some sketches. You can see the real light sketchy background, which is intended to just be finished as a painting, and then it ends up looking like that. So
now there's two parts to obviously making comics and graphic novels. And in the beginning, when I was growing up, it was, you had the bullpen concept of, writers and then people who drew stuff and then people who ink stuff. But when you're sort of self-published, you're doing all these hats. So, I mean, what kind of comes naturally to you? Is the drawing part first in your mind kind of help you get to the story? Or do you have a process that just is almost exclusively like the approach of a screenwriter in the initial phases?
It's less like a screenwriter. Let me go full screen on this here. Enter full screen. It's less like a screenwriter and more like a bullet point list for me.
Yeah.
But the longer I've been doing it, the more I've been getting comfortable with the screenwriter like approach. And I think it's just because, the more you get into this world of like trying to sell your ideas and stuff, you don't want to finish a whole comic before you see if you can sell it. And so, the more of my recent stories have been, they actually look like a script, which is surprising to me because I never saw myself as a writer, ever. I was like, I'm an artist first, and I don't know if I can even write. But enough people have told me they enjoy my writing that I've kind of slowly accepted that as part of my title.
Yeah.
So yeah, and like I say, that last one I showed you for Shapes, I was actually hired to write, and that was my first actual writing job. Was that comic? So this is from Cithra. So this is a 1,000-page epic that I made. This is the one that was published on Webtoons.
Wow.
And you can see that I kind of mixed the prose and the graphic novel a little bit in this one. Every new project I make, I seem to want to experiment on it. So this one was like, how can I blend prose into comics better than anything I've ever seen? And so that was my goal.